I was just trying to get home from work, sitting in the back of my Uber and watching the gridlocked traffic that had us completely stuck for almost 20 minutes. I wasn't in a hurry, but I could feel the driver's patience wearing thin. The guy was sighing, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel and muttering to himself. Then, with no warning at all, he wrenched the wheel hard to the right. I braced myself, thinking we were about to get hit, but the jolt was much, much weirder. The car jumped the curb, landing with a jarring thud on the sidewalk. Before I could even ask what was happening, the driver slammed on the gas. We were speeding down the pedestrian sidewalk, weaving between streetlights and newspaper boxes. People scattered, some yelling in anger, others just frozen, unable to believe what they were seeing. I shouted from the back, "What are you doing? Get back on the road!" The driver, with a truly chilling calmness, just glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Don't worry," he said, his voice completely flat. "This is the Uber lane." For 3 entire city blocks, we used the sidewalk as our own personal highway. I was frozen, caught between being terrified and thinking how absolutely absurd the situation was. Every bump and swerve felt like it could send us crashing through a shop window or hitting someone who couldn't jump out of the way in time. I begged him to stop, my voice trembling, but the man just kept going, a faint, unnerving smile on his face. Finally, just as suddenly as it started, the driver swerved back into moving traffic like nothing out of the ordinary had happened. He drove the last few blocks to my place in total silence. When the car stopped, I didn't stick around to say goodbye. I threw the door open and scrambled out, my heart pounding. I looked back just in time to see the driver give me a little, knowing nod before pulling away, leaving me standing there, wondering how many other people had taken a ride on the terrifying Uber lane.
Story number 2, the digital stalker. My ride didn't end when I closed the car door. The trip itself was fine. The driver was polite, we barely spoke, and I got to my apartment without any issues. I left him 5 stars and forgot all about it. Until the next morning. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's your Uber driver from last night. Couldn't stop thinking about how pretty you looked. We should go out." I was immediately creeped out. Drivers weren't supposed to be able to contact you after a ride. I ignored it, hoping it was a one-off mistake. But then another message came. And another. He commented on my profile picture, asked what I was doing, and kept pushing me to go to dinner. My unease quickly turned into real fear. This man knew where I lived. He had my phone number. While Uber has since added features to hide personal numbers, determined people can still find ways around them. I blocked his number, but it didn't stop. A few days later, a friend request popped up on my social media. Blank profile picture, but a familiar name. I clicked on it, and my blood ran cold. It was him. He'd found me online. It went from creepy to terrifying. He'd message me from different fake accounts, sometimes just saying, "I know you see this." I felt like I was constantly being watched. Every time I left my apartment, I scanned the street for his car. Every notification on my phone made me jump. The experience left me deeply shaken. Even after I reported him to Uber and changed my number, that feeling of being violated wouldn't go away. My home didn't feel like a safe place anymore. It felt exposed. It's a chilling story that shows the journey doesn't always end when you reach your destination. Sometimes it follows you home.
Story number 3, the nightmare on the highway. My trip started normally enough, but I soon realized my driver was getting really agitated with the other cars around us. Once we got on the interstate, his attitude went from irritated to completely reckless. He started speeding, weaving through traffic with sharp, aggressive lane changes. I was gripping my seat, my knuckles white. I politely asked the driver to please slow down, but was met with a wild, unsettling laugh. "You in a hurry?" he cackled, flooring the accelerator. "Let's see what this car can do." The speedometer shot past 90, then 100 miles per hour. The world outside was just a terrifying blur of lights. I begged the driver to pull over, to just let me out. Anything to escape what felt like a metal death trap. He just ignored me, his eyes locked on the road with a manic grin plastered on his face. At one point, he was steering with his knees while sending a text, the car drifting dangerously close to the concrete divider. I was sure I was about to die. I started frantically texting my family, telling them I loved them, trying to describe the car so they could find it later. I was completely helpless, a prisoner in a speeding bullet controlled by a madman. The terror finally stopped when we got to my exit. The driver slammed on the brakes, screeching to a halt at the bottom of the ramp. He turned to me, all the manic energy gone, replaced by a strange calm. "See," he said, "got you here in record time." I just stumbled out of the car, my legs shaking so badly I could barely stand. I didn't look back. The ride only lasted 15 minutes, but the memory of that driver's laugh and the feeling of absolute terror would stick with me for years.
Story number 4. The imposter in the driver's seat. My friend and I were leaving a concert one night. We got the notification, "Our Uber is here." We checked the license plate, the car model, just like you're supposed to. Everything matched up, so we jumped in the back. But as the car started moving, I knew something was wrong. The driver looked nothing like the photo in the app. He was older and had a harsh look that put us on edge instantly. I leaned forward, trying to keep my voice steady. "Excuse me," I said. "The app says our driver's name is Michael." The man just grunted. "He's my cousin. I'm covering his shift." The excuse felt weak, and my friend and I gave each other a nervous look. We watched the GPS on our own phones as the driver took a turn that was definitely not on the route home. When we asked him about it, his answer was chilling. "I know a shortcut," he snarled. Panic started to bubble up. The car was now heading into a deserted industrial park. The doors were locked. My friend pretended to be on the phone, loudly saying our location and describing the car. The driver's head whipped around, his eyes full of rage. He started screaming at us to shut up. Thinking fast, I remembered I had a small knife on my keychain. With trembling hands, I pulled it out and held it up so he could see it in the rearview mirror. "Let us out of the car right now," I said, my voice shaking but firm. "Or I will use this." For a long moment, the driver didn't say anything. The car just kept speeding down the dark road. Then, with a sudden screech, he pulled over and unlocked the doors. "Get out," he spat. The two of us scrambled out and ran, not daring to look back. When we were far enough away, we checked the app. The ride had been canceled. There was no record of the trip, no driver to report. We had gotten into a ghost car, driven by an imposter, and were incredibly lucky to have escaped.
Story number 5. The intoxicated ride. The second I opened the car door, I was hit with the overwhelming smell of marijuana. I hesitated, I was running late, and got in anyway, hoping the smell was from a previous rider. It wasn't. My driver, a guy with bloodshot eyes and slow, sluggish speech, was clearly high. The drive was unnerving right from the start. His movements were slow and jerky. He'd drift into another lane, then clumsily jerk the wheel to get back. His speed was all over the place. He'd slow down to a crawl for no reason, then suddenly speed up. I sat bolt upright in the back, my senses screaming, watching every single move he made. I tried talking to him, just to see how out of it he was. His answers were delayed and didn't make much sense, his words slurring together. He seemed to be in his own little world, sometimes chuckling to himself for no reason. I knew I had to get out. I made up an excuse, saying I forgot something and needed to be dropped off at a nearby convenience store. The driver seemed confused but did it, pulling into the parking lot with a lurch that threw me against the door. I quickly paid and got out, feeling a huge wave of relief. I immediately reported the driver, knowing I had to stop him from picking anyone else up. The whole thing was a terrifying lesson. The person you're trusting to get you home safe could be the biggest danger on the road.
Story number 6. The unwanted advance. As a woman, getting into a rideshare alone at night already comes with some anxiety. An inappropriate comment can make a simple ride feel threatening. I was heading home after a night out. I was sitting in the back, keeping to myself, when the driver started commenting on how I looked. I tried to ignore him by putting in my earbuds, but he just talked louder. He started asking really invasive personal questions. I gave short, vague answers, hoping he'd take the hint. He didn't. When we got to my apartment, I couldn't get out of the car fast enough. But as I was walking away, my phone buzzed. It was a message from the driver, asking me out. I was horrified that he had used my personal information. That horror turned to pure terror when he didn't leave. He just parked his car across the street, a dark shape in the night. He was watching my building. I ran inside, locked my door, and peeked through the blinds. The car was still there. He was stalking me. What happened next took an even darker turn. When I eventually tried to leave my apartment, he got out of his car and followed me. He attacked me, and a creepy ride ended in a brutal sexual assault. The driver was eventually caught and charged. This story is a horrifying example of the absolute worst-case scenario. And it's not an isolated one. In a safety report covering 2019 and 2020, Uber itself disclosed 3,824 reports of the most severe categories of sexual assault, a chilling statistic that reveals just how vulnerable a passenger can be. Story number 7, the contaminated air. This experience is maybe the most unsettling because it's so mysterious. It's about a danger that's invisible and silent, and it feels like something ripped from a spy movie. I got into my Uber and noticed the driver was acting a little off. A few minutes into the trip, I saw him pick up a small, sealed package from his console and tear it open with his teeth. Just a moment later, I started to feel really sick. A wave of dizziness and exhaustion washed over me so fast and so strong, I felt like I was about to pass out. My mind was racing. Had I been drugged? Was there something in the air? My gut was screaming that I was in serious danger. I immediately demanded that the driver pull over. He seemed confused, but he stopped the car. I scrambled out, gasping for fresh air, my heart pounding. I fumbled with my phone and hit the emergency button in the Uber app, which alerted the authorities. As I was on the phone, I looked up and saw the driver speed away, disappearing into traffic before anyone could get there. I was left completely shaken, with no real answer for what had just happened. I don't know what was in that package or what the driver's plan was. And maybe that's the scariest part of all, the not knowing. From reckless joyrides to actual predators, these stories show that there's a dark side to the convenience we've all come to rely on. A simple car ride can turn into a life-altering event when that basic trust is broken. Of course, millions of rides happen safely every single day, but these accounts are a powerful reminder that being vigilant is your best defense. Always check your ride, share your trip details with a friend, and don't ever hesitate to use the emergency features if you feel unsafe. What's the strangest or scariest thing that's ever happened to you in a rideshare? Let us know in the comments below. And if this video was eye-opening for you, please consider liking and subscribing for more content that looks at the stories hiding just under the surface of our normal lives. Stay safe out there.